This is jpeg2RAW, show number 141 on March 31st, last day of March. Last day to get your photo in on the March Photo Challenge, which is eyes. So if you're getting this recorded, it's already too late. But tonight we have a special guest coming in. We don't have video for him, but we have the next best thing. We have his photos, which are behind me, and we're streaming them. Tonight we have London-based photographer James Connolly. James, how are you doing?
Hello, hi, yeah. I'm all right. It's all good.
And James, we were talking about this in a pre-show. We're worried about James. His bandwidth it may be a little challenged, so we won't have his video. But we do. I think some of the photos that are in the stream are of you, right?
Yeah, mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, well, not mostly. I mean, I saw one.
Is that the one where you are like you have three of you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's another one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some photos of James that you can see, but what you really need to see is the photos that he takes, which are amazing. We'll have the links as always in the show notes to both his wedding site, his Facebook site, his main website too. So James, I was looking through your photos and they're just fantastic. Last night, I was doing this last night. I was getting all the photos ready for what we're looking at now, and I run into the problem where I can't get every one of them. I'll be here all night. There's just so many good ones, but it was hard not. Yeah, it was hard not to just sit there and pick every one of them. Tell us how you got into photography and how you developed this skill.
Yeah, well, it's I was pretty kind of shocked to come to the show, honestly, because I'm so young into it. And when you had previous guests, which were like people that I really follow as well, like Cook and Kevin Cook and a few other guys, even I can't remember his name, Grove as well. He does boudoir.
Right.
And I've been following their videos, so long. And I've been doing it roughly, I think, around 3 years now, like since I bought my first ever camera, which was, I think, a D3100, an Nikon one. And so the main reason why I went into it was because there's a very famous street artist here in London, and his name is Bansky. And I just wanted to go and collect some of his stuff, taking pictures and just collecting them, and just putting them on a wall and just going around the city and taking some pictures. And there was a friend of mine, he owned a Canon, and my first idea was to buy a bridge camera or something. But then he just he talked me into it, and he said, look, you might one day eventually try to progress into it and just take another camera. So he had Canon, and he told me to buy Nikon. I don't know why, but from there I just started, I guess almost everybody started with landscapes, street photography, and then progressively in, I think, 1.5 years at that point, I decided to go as a job. So I just went full step into it, and I tried. Mostly now I'm doing portrait stuff. Okay. So but all the portrait kind of stuff in my website, it doesn't really, let's say, it's not the kind of work I exactly do most of the times. So most of the times, commercial work, so headshots and things like this, which I rarely put on my website because I want to do kind of more artistic kind of stuff.
Okay, so I can't believe you've only been at this for 3 years, and you've already got
the same thing after I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, and as always, I can't stream them in their true quality, so you need to go out to his website and look at them. They're just not just the quality of the edit and the quality of the shot, but the eye. How do you call that? The artistic ability that's here. So do you have any kind of artist background or anything?
No, not really. The thing I was doing before that was I wanted to become a poker player. So I was playing that game for over 4 years, and I was stepping into it. And I guess that was the mindset I put into photography as well, was basically repetition. So like the first things I was doing, like when I started learning Photoshop, was I was never saving what I was doing in order to go the day after and just try to do it quicker and do it in a, try to memorize some steps and just to make it like kind of a second nature. So I kind of moved into that mindset where I was just facing the same things every time until, you kind of reach the point where, well, okay, I can learn this something new or this thing. But even for pictures was the same. Like I was always looking at so many images to kind of, try to understand what was it that I liked in one picture and what was it that, what really attracted me. So I don't think, there is an artistic background
Okay.
wherever I kind of went to.
No, so were you making a living at poker, or was that a lucrative?
Yeah, was halfway. So I had a day job, and yeah, it was okay. I was playing in some tournaments, live ones and online ones, and mostly like here in London, it was legal to play in poker clubs. Then they shut them down, and it kind of become you could play only in casinos, where before you had this kind of like poker rooms where because what the format I was playing was the tournament version. And yeah, the fastest way to learn that was to play online, where you were like crunching so many hands compared to how many you would do on a live session. So that's why, it was all about repetition and, trying to face the same problems over and over again.
Wow, that sounds like an exciting thing to do right there, is play poker. And I guess you got good enough to make money at it.
Yeah, like I didn't like burst the bubble or do, I would be probably still into that if it was really, really successful. But yeah, I had my fair share. So I was playing, like the biggest tournament I played was the European Poker Tour, which, it's like one of the biggest things you could do in Europe, and it went quite well. But then there was a whole 2 years where, it's like a roller coaster. You keep going up and down, and it's same for photography too. I mean, there are days where you get more clients, and some days where it just keeps going down, and you're like, okay, well, what's happening? Is my CEO going bad or anything? So,
well, I think with a body of work like this, it takes a while to build a business, but with a body of work like this, it seems like that should be just a matter of time before a steady business is rolling in. So you're playing poker. What then drove you to say, "Hey, let me try my hand at some what do you call it? Some photography."
Yeah, well, when I realized, like, in some point that it's just like a skill, like, it is very technical. So what I realized in some point, yeah, of course, if you have the artistic background, or more about artistic things, and you have that artistic, you are an artistic person, you can go around it much in a different way, and have you have that mindset, where for me it was more about the technical side. So trying to understand a lot about light, trying to understand a lot about Photoshop, which is mainly what I think was a big part of the things that I started to, because sometimes I was looking at some pictures and I was like, okay, this is not only about the lighting, there's something behind it. Right. And was going through so many tutorials and looking at, and I think because I was mostly a self-taught person, I was ending up learning more stuff than I should do. So sometimes I was like searching for a certain type of tutorial and I didn't know what was the name of it. And then you were ending up looking at other sick stuff that you say, wow, this could come up, useful in the future. So the main thing that I thought, that it was mostly because it was a challenge. So I was like, if some, because at that time when I started, I think there was one guy that he was just starting on, and it was Sean Archer. I don't know if you know him. He's basically he calls himself Sean Archer, but he's a Russian guy, and now he became editor in 500 pixel, and he just started out with a really small camera, and he was doing so many crazy portraits, like really beautiful portraits. And I think was somebody of F-Stopper that interviewed him, and he said in that article about like he was doing it for around 1 year or something. And at that point, that was something that I said, wow, this is something that, you know, if you really focus on, it could go. So I really tried on it, and yeah.
Well, you know, I guess that goes to some people just have the eye. Some people have to develop it. And you know, I think you must have had this skill already in you, and now you're just developing it, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think of myself like an artist. You know, I just think that there are some people, yes, they are, you know, without Photoshop or without no knowledge of lighting, they can really do really, really good stuff. And, you know, I think what really helped me mostly was trying to understand, like breaking down things into, like, you know, watching, because one day I remember there was a guy, and I was in the tube, and this guy, I knew he was a photographer because he had a bag, which was the Lopo bag. Mm-hmm. But generally, you know, in London, there's always full of tourists, but it was really late. And I was wondering why this guy had a small step ladder with him. And I asked him like, oh, you're a photographer? And I was just, you know, playing around. It was like my 4th month. And you start noticing all this stuff, you know, like people with bags and people with cameras, and looking what camera that guy is using and this and that. And I asked the guy like why he had ladder, and he told me like because he was a press photographer, and he just explained to me like, yeah, well, if you have a ladder, you can just get shots that other people don't. If you come late, you can, you know, just go higher and keep shooting, and nobody will be in your way. So at that point, he explained to me like how to break down an image, and I can't remember his name, and he was very analytic. Like he was like explaining to me like, when you watch an image, you know, this is what you should go through, and this is what you should look at. And from there, I started realizing really how much was more technical and more, you know, there is so much to think about rather than just, you know, a beautiful subject or a beautiful, you know, scenario. It was really the technical part that really struck me a lot.
Now, so you got some knowledge from this guy you just met on the tube, which I guess is a subway, right, here in the United States?
Yeah.
And did you meet with him another time, or did you? It's just that one time.
No, I think I met him again because we were living very close at the time, and then I moved out. But yeah, I think I met him again. I really can't remember his name, but he was really useful in those inputs he gave me that night. And, you know, he even stayed there for like 20 minutes after we got off the tube, and he was just, you know, explaining to me like, okay, when you look at picture, you know, try to find straight away where the horizon is, and then from there you understand if he was, you know, lower or higher, what height was he, you know, try if you know the kind of photographer, if he's tall, you know if he pushed himself lower. So, you know, all these point of views, and you know, he was giving me out, and from there it kind of built up, you know, this analytic way of looking images, and that kind of break down into things. I keep always looking into pictures, and you know, yeah.
You know, so when I hear this story, one of the things that come to mind is you never know when that little nice thing you're going to do for somebody is going to have such a big impact. You know, here this guy could have just blown you off and gone about his way and got home 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
But he spent the time to at least be nice to you and give you a few pointers. And, you know, that made an impact on you, that here, you know, all this time later, it's still, you know, something you're talking about.
Yeah. And I really feel sorry that I can't remember his name. And I just remember that, like, when I looked at his portfolio, it wasn't like pictures I wanted to do, but then because he was doing like journalism, mostly like journalism for, I can't remember which paper, and it was like the Queen, and, you know, his portfolio was mostly press. press images. But yeah, but the way he changed the whole point of view I had, and yeah, it was very nice from him, But I think the whole photographic community, it is actually very nice.
Yeah.
People, they really, when you have feedbacks and people are talking about, images, and there's people, yeah, the ones that, they're a bit more close and they just don't want to share. But then there are lots of them that, you just ask them things and they would answer back,
And I love that about the photo community, that more and more people are doing that. And I'm a little distracted right now because I'm on the third video of yours. You can probably see it behind me, James. But we're showing you have a YouTube page where you do some behind the scenes videos. And right now there's one playing of you doing I guess it's a model shoot out in the woods. And I think we've seen her photo in some of the photos we're looking at. But it's you doing a setup and the shots here. I love these behind the scenes things. So we'll have the link to his YouTube page where you can go and look at these yourself later. But we're going to play a few of these as we talk, and so we don't just have the photos. So James, you made a decision to become a photographer. Now, are you a full-time photographer now, or are you still have a day job?
No. I'm a full-time photographer now.
Okay, so and less than 3 years, you've been able to convert and become a full-time photographer. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's. I mean, in London, I don't think it's that hard. Like, well, of course, there are so many aspects to look, around the business, but in about self-promotion and connections and network, I think London is really big. There's so many things you could do, and the way you can start, I think, is very, I remember the first things I was doing was just I would be somewhere like in a restaurant. I would just bring my camera and take a couple of pictures and then send them as an email and say, hey, I was in your restaurant, I like your place, and if you don't mind, if you need photographer, I would just send them like 3-4 pictures, and from there, at least they had that thing that, oh, okay, in case we might need. And I was doing it often with so many restaurants, sometimes with people as well, and it kind of grew up this way, the face-to-face networking. And then obviously with Facebook and website was kind of grew up much faster, I guess.
Okay. Steven out in chat has a question for you. Now, I think you mentioned you are Nikon, right?
Yeah.
What do you have any favorite lenses? Any ones you use the most?
Yeah, well, lately I'm really into, well, that's like, I think it's like probably the cheapest 85 you can find is the Samyang one.
Okay. And
I'm really into that. Like I really love that lens. It was so cheap. It's the only thing is a manual focus lens, but then that's what I really like about that lens. It's just people are like, whoa, you shot with that with that manual focus lens, and they're it's kind of get more points of respect. Yeah. And yeah, I really love that lens. It's really one of the lenses I'm using a lot. And the other one I'm using mostly is 2470 Nikon one, and I'm using an 80-200, which is the older version of the 70-200 Nikon version, and that probably is the one that I use mostly, especially for weddings. It's the one that I really use a lot.
Okay. One of the things that in the video we just played, which of the videos that might have been my favorite so far, is it was the one of the girl that you went out in the woods and you brought light with you. You brought a flash with you. How did you learn flash? Because a lot of people find that as a tough thing to master, and then you actually took it outside on a bright sunny day and was taking photos with the flash, which I know a lot of novices and some not so novices would wonder, why do you need a flash on a bright sunny day? But you look at the end result and you see why. But how did you learn that? Because that could be a difficult thing to learn.
Well, mostly when what brought me mostly into strobes or flashes was there was this guy from South Africa, which I really like his stuff. It's like one of my favorite photographers, and he's so young into it. It's like probably like his fourth year now, but he's, you know, I really love his stuff. And when I was looking at his pictures, there was always this, you know, certain look, this studio kind of look, and it was outdoors mainly. And I remember asking him, like, you know, what do you use, and what are the main setups you think, you know, you use mostly on outdoor shootings. And before that, I was trying to emulate this look, but mostly was indoors, and it could never work because when you're shooting outdoors and you're using mostly a light, an artificial light source, mostly all the time is more for the looks rather than just lighting your subject. Right. So when you're using it, like, you know, with the sun behind her and using the sun as a rim light, or you know, just adding more light, the key light mainly was, yeah, if it's sunset, you're using it to light, but most of the times when it's daytime, like really, really, you know, sunny and everything, it's mostly just to give that, you know, like that look on the skin, that studio kind of look. And I just went out and I just tried. In the beginning, I was trying with trees. So they weren't moving, and I was trying with trees and, you know, trying to understand, okay, I expose for the background, and then I expose with the light on, and then I tried to go with the balance. If it was most of the times I would end up slightly underexposed, just because then I know that in Photoshop I could work more on balancing the shot, where I know other people, they just try to nail it there, but then you have some shadow castings and things like that. So I try to slightly underexpose, just to, because what I really mainly focus a lot on the post-production is the dodge and burning. Mm-hmm. And like when I slightly underexpose and just not try to throw the flash on, like example on this shot where there's flowers, you know, I remember it was I think it was half stop overexposed, and what happened was the shadow casting behind her, it was too strong, and at that point I knew I was like, you know, I wasn't where I wanted to be, so I ended up underexposing, so I would still get the detail of the skin, but then I would bring it out more in the dodge and burning part.
Now I gotta ask a question about the shot. Did you add the birds in the background, or?
Yeah.
Okay. were you that lucky that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know, I think, I don't know about Tim, but I'd probably walk by this field and say, horrible, nothing here. Let's move on. How are you picking your locations? Because, you know, obviously after you take the picture, this is a fantastic photo, and, you know, a nice location too. How are you picking your locations?
Well, so yeah, the story behind this girl and all this scenario in that video was actually a very long day, and this person you see here, she's my fiance. So it was kind of a, you know, she had more patience. So we were like, I think overall was a 10-hour all day in the forest, and we were just, you know, hanging around with there was a friend of mine as well. So it was kind of I had enough time to go and scout it before and try to see where. I just remember at this point was where I knew the sunset was gonna come slightly behind, and I think I shot this with a 200 millimeter. So I tried to compress the background, but I was quite far. And yeah, generally it really goes on like, say, my mood. So if it's like during the winter, I was shooting mostly in the cities, and mostly they were like really kind of grungy, darker, like kind of look. Well, on summertime, you know, it's so rare to have the sun here, and you really have to shoot outdoors when the sun comes out. So, you know, you try to go where the sun would really, you know, have a stronger effect. So like probably like forests or parks or something where, you know, more nature, and try to bring those different kind of tones out instead of, you know, the grungier look and things like this.
Okay.
I think it's most by mood, I guess.
And you know, that's kudos to your fiance for doing this for 10 hours. That's
Yeah, really.
she must
I
really
couldn't get my wife to do that.
She must really like you.
Yeah, but this was the only case. I mean, it never happened again. You know, that was the only case. And
that's because you made her do it for 10 hours.
She said, "I ain't going out there again with you. That's it. I'm done."
And that's why I had to bring the guy to do the behind the scene and, you know, make sure, okay, this is one chance. You know, I'm not gonna get another one after this. So you know, I had to make sure.
So, you know, does this where your poker days come in, where, you know, that repetitive well, hold on, where that repetitive thing where you just keep doing it over and over again and you get better and better at the lighting and better at the photography, is that what you've done here too? Is not, you know, this image already is good, but to build up to this, to learn the lighting and that kind of stuff, just do it over and over and over again until you get better at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most, that's really the valuable part that for me was something I really had to focus more, was to make enough mistakes to then find methods. Because basically the mindset you had into playing poker was, you know, everybody can play, you know, double aces or kings or queens. It's just the situation you are, you need to know when to play them in a certain way. And the only way to do that was to do it so many times that then you had more solutions when you had different situations. And I think with flash and then mostly, you know, with flashes and strobes was the same. Like you could have the same, let's say not same subject, but the same type of subject. So a woman, but you light it in a certain way, but then her features doesn't really work out where you put the light and all this kind of thing. So the more time I was spending into moving the light from slightly left to slightly centered, and all those times I've been trying those, you kind of reach, you know, the point where you start learning, like you kind of not guess, but you kind of, you know, have the intuition where, okay, I've been through this like 50 times. If I do it like this, I know this is what I'm going to get. So you kind of, you know, try to learn so many mistakes and then to nail it faster. Because, like, example, this was a sunset. So we had like roughly 10 minutes. And I know, you know, if I wasn't able to get it at this time, you know, I wasn't going to get it anymore. So I remember it was 2 days before I was trying to shoot the same kind of thing, but it was a tree, and I keep shooting it until, you know, I found like, okay, the lighting at this point, if the lighting is exposed in the background like this is what are the settings I have to go for.
Okay. You know, I notice a lot of your photos of different, you know, not just your fiance, but of a lot of different people. Are these people who've hired you, or are you hired models to build a portfolio, or what, of the non-wedding type shots?
Yeah, no, most of them they hired me, okay. And yeah, not all of them. Their main interest was to have like this artistic look, but then, you know, a couple of shots here and there was like, okay, I could use this for my own self. But most of them, they were like for their own portfolio. Some of them, they were just for their own private images. So wherever I could take some shots, even for myself, as, you know, to make them artistic or anything, they would give me, you know, to do it.
Okay. Now, what is the portrait business like there in Europe? And, you know, over here we have a lot of people who are interested in getting infant photos and baby photos and family photos and senior photos. But what is it like over there in Europe?
Well, so far, I mean, I can't really say so much, because for what I've seen so far, and that's, you know, my decisions or how my marketing went, or, you know, if it's bad or is it good. But what I really notice is, like, in the US, well, you get more, you know, it's like in your kind of culture where you hire photographers. Like where, you know, I was in Italy recently, and we were talking about, you know, portraits and everything, and there is like, you rarely hire a photographer for portraits. You know, it's always about, you get them for, you know, events, so weddings, baptism, and maybe some birthdays, I guess, or, you know, other public activities, so like, you know, like clubs or things like this. But it's for portrait scenes, like I think here as well, you know, there's no, I haven't came across yet, like for what you have there in the US, the seniors, which, you know, for me, I remember I was talking with an American friend, and I told him like, well, man, I would really love to do like one session just to see how you know, how do you act with a teenager, and how does the whole situation works around, and how does it work, and, you know, how the whole job goes. And it's not that frequent, you know. Here, mostly all the ones that hire me mostly is just for portfolio use, for modeling, acting, or, you know, this kind of portraits, not for private mostly.
Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't do that either. We, you know, we all, if you wanted a family photo, you went to Sears or Ola Mills or something like that. You went to a store, and they did that. And your senior photos are whoever the high school hired to do that. And you basically just were an assembly line. You would come up, they'd take your shot, and you'd move on. And it was, you know, usually posed with your ring or something like that. And that's what the senior business was like here back when I was in high school. And that's been a few years ago. But, you know, maybe, you know, it takes somebody like you to break this out. You know, if you can get a senior and you do a session with them, and you post it on, and it gets on Facebook, and they share it, who knows? It could start the whole trend of, hey, I want that too.
Yeah. I remember in one of your episodes there was this girl, I can't remember her name. I'm terrible with names. No, I think. Oh yeah, it was her. It was her.
Redhead from Seattle.
Yeah, that she kind of changed the whole senior kind of thing, and she made it look like magazine shots.
She is fantastic.
Think was her. Yeah, was really amazing. But I think, yeah, I mean, you know, I was talking with the same guy I'm doing weddings with, and, you know, we were like, well, you know, but it has to come, like, I think it's more like a cultural thing, you know, when so many more people are into it. Because today, I think the hardest part is, you know, like, people, if it's not in their culture, I think it's just hard to justify why should they pay somebody.
True. I think changing the people's culture takes a while. That's not it's not an overnight thing.
Yeah, I mean, unless you get like 20 of them and you shoot them for free, and then they will be like, wow, this is cool, you know. But, you know, that would take time, and, you know, they might just put them on their Facebook and they say, hey, yeah, was a guy and this and this and that, but it would be just an end conversation, I guess. But,
you know, or hey, everybody wants free shots from James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go into weddings, which is what I want to go next, Stephen had a question. He, you know, I know you mentioned Photoshop before, but he asked, are you a Lightroom person or a Photoshop user? And if you use Lightroom, can you talk about your sharpening techniques? And I guess even if you don't use Lightroom, what are your sharpening techniques in Photoshop? So Lightroom or Photoshop?
Photoshop mainly.
Okay.
And yeah, well, first things I do is it's the high pass. It's the high pass, which there's so many different ways of doing it. But what I really found was that, you know, the thing that really brings mostly the sharpness out was just to make your picture smaller. And the settings I use is on the long side is 2048 times 1365, I think. And yeah,
for posting on Facebook.
Yeah, mostly on Facebook, or mostly all social networking or portfolio use as well.
And were you? Look, I don't know if you had a question.
Went right over my head because I barely use Photoshop. I was like, wow, I don't even know how to write that down in the show notes.
Well, I think what you're talking about, James, is that Photoshop wants certain sizes to the image, and you got to resize your image to meet that size for Photoshop. And I think they published this, but I'm not sure. There's a few sizes you can choose. If you don't choose that size, they're going to resize it for you, and that's where it messes up whatever hard work you did to get it in whatever shape you were wanting it in. They then change that.
You mean on Facebook, right?
On Facebook, yes.
Yeah,
is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is one of those things that I remember where I think actually Facebook posted it somewhere.
Yeah.
And it says, and actually as well, I think instead of JPEG, you could post it in PNG, and it wouldn't suffer compression or something like that.
And what was the image size you said you used? 2048?
2048 times 1365, I think. Okay. Anyway, once you put the longer side and you have the format 6x4, it will just give you the vertical, and I think it was 1365.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. And I'll probably now have to find that link where Facebook posted it so I can put it in the show notes. Because I know I've seen it before, but I just can't remember where. All right, so did you go straight into weddings as soon as you got into photography, or did you do a lot of the portrait stuff first?
I think I got into wedding because the guy that I do wedding together now, he is a portrait photographer as well, but he does glamour stuff. And we met one day in London. We just decided to go and do a shoot together, and just trying to socialize. And we came up to do, because he wanted to start doing more weddings, and I think I was already on my second wedding when I went to do the wedding with him. And let's say that over the time, I think, until today, I think it's one of the things I really like to do in photography. It's weddings. Well,
I was going through your work on, I can't remember the name of this site. Let me find it.
It's very long.
the Viewbug site.
Oh,
I was going through those photos and, oh my God, look at all these good images. Look at all these good images. Then I go back to your website and I go to weddings and find you have a whole nother website, the Lucky Love Wedding Photography.
Yeah.
With, I can't remember the other gentleman's
Yeah, it's very
name.
hard to pronounce. Bartosz Branka.
Yeah, I was never going to get that right. So
not a chance, Mike. Not a chance.
So thank you for saying that for me. And that's when I came across your wedding photos, and good God, they're absolutely fantastic. And the one just came up. I wanted to go back to that one because I saw this one earlier. And this is the bride with the umbrella.
Yeah.
This
was actually his shot. Yeah.
Okay.
His shot. Yeah, but I was with him that day.
And I should mention that, I have some photos here that are some his, some yours. They're all from your company, y'all's company.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love this shot. I love this one here. Hopefully I don't pick everyone as his.
No, this was his. But basically, the funny thing was he was shooting mostly only with natural light.
Yeah.
In his weddings, and mostly in his own photography. And then we kind of swapped, where then he started using more flashes and strobes, and now I'm mostly using only natural light. So it kind of, swapped around when I met him.
Yeah, because actually, this is not just natural light. This one we have up here now.
No, this one actually, which one is it?
It's the bride, she's sitting down.
Yes, that is natural light.
That is natural light?
What is that, rice being thrown down?
Those are leaves.
Leaves?
Yes, from a tree. I remember I was pushing the tree, and
so they're like very. Oh, all right, yeah. It's like little buds. Oh, that's.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. See,
I never would have guessed that.
No, I never would have guessed that either. So
yeah.
you're pushing a tree to make this stuff fall.
Yeah,
and I would have never guessed that was natural light.
Yeah, because the light was coming from the side and it was diffused through the umbrella, so it looked, but yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, that is great. Okay, so let me get that started up again. So now is the wedding side of the business, the wedding side, what is your main income from photography, or are you doing a lot from the portrait side too still?
Well, I think now is the season where we're getting more bookings, and summer is coming, but we had to leave a big gap between the end of May to June, the end of June. Yeah, because I'm getting married on that time, so it's kind of it's kind of weird because I kind of understand what they're going through, like couples when they call you and everything. Yeah.
You're not hiring your buddy?
Yeah, he will be shooting my wedding.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny though, because I already told him, like, okay, I think I know where we should pose and all these kind of things, like during the wedding.
He's gonna love
I'll
you
be
as a client.
looking at you.
Oh yeah, it's Groomzilla.
He's gonna love you as a client, telling them how to do everything.
Yeah.
Now just don't pull out your own camera and say this is how it's done.
Nah.
Speaking of that,
it's very good.
You had a couple. This one here I have pulled up where I don't know if this was staged or not, or this was just going on. You have a wedding guest who's taking a photo with their point and shoot, and then y'all get a photo of that happening. That's what when I look through the wedding photos, you got your typical stuff, and some of them are your typical stuff, but still very creative. Like the one of the shoes. I haven't personally seen this one before. I don't know if you can see it, Tim, behind me.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, yeah, with the bouquet on top of the shoes. Oh, that was very creative. Yeah, and just the eye that you guys have to get like this one here, the DJ, where you get the mood of what's going on in the I guess this is what do you call that after the wedding, the reception?
The reception, yeah.
And then of course I don't know if this is the first kiss or not, but the kiss.
Yeah. Well, that's the really thing I really like about weddings is like you have so many kind of categories into one day. So you're doing like some shots that are sort of macro documentary shots, like still shots, and then you have the documenting part where you're trying to just get candid shots, and then the event kind of images. So it kinds of it's so big, and the whole thing that really enjoys me is like you're trying to pull off so hard things because everything is like everybody's under pressure and everything is like seems like it's gonna explode, and so it feels you have more satisfaction behind each image rather than a all constructed one.
You know what? Okay, so I'll say a little thing about what I like when I look at these images. First, the focal point, of course, is the couple kissing. That the emotion is going on there. The husband and wife just got married. But I also love looking in the behind the scenes and seeing like the two ladies back behind the scene who are watching them two kiss. I can almost hear their "aw," like that kind of sound. And then some when you have the child here and the emotion of him having just a blast at the reception. I love these kind of shots of other things that are going on at the wedding.
Yeah, and I think this was the wedding where I had one of the guests, one of the I think was the bride. She was related to my fiance, and their sister-in-law as well was there, and my fiance was there as well, and this was in Poland, and I really didn't know the language and everything, so I knew there was like kind of tension when they saw me. So like, this kind of face when they pull you off, when as soon as you go with the camera, they know you're the photographer and they start like, smiling at you and all this stuff. And I really didn't like it because it's so
unnatural.
So at that point, I remember halfway, I just stick on the big lens and I was like really far away and I started shooting people that way. And it just, from there, it was the way I really wanted to shoot weddings, was trying to be so far away from people and try not to be in their way and nobody would see me and try to get those, different kind of shots.
Yeah, I like that too. I like being the unseen photographer.
Yeah,
and getting true emotion, like the one we're seeing in the little girl right now. True, non-posed emotion. So if you had asked her to sit there and smile, it would have been a totally different look. It would have looked unnatural.
Yeah, it would be so different.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Poland, and you're London based. Do you get to travel a lot there for different weddings in different countries?
Yeah, mostly because, from her family side, they know me as a wedding photographer. That's what they knew me for, because that was with the first kind of thing I'd done there. And from there, it's kind of just became, uh, word of mouth. Oh, this guy done it and this guy done it. So it kind of grew up into that in Poland.
Yeah. So Stephen also has a question out here about the fact that you have your wedding. You have James Connolly's website, and then you have a wedding as a separate site. He just bought a separate domain to host his wedding business on a separate site. Do you have it on a separate site because you're doing it with someone else, or just to have a site devoted to wedding related photography?
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, that was the main reason, was to build a site separate, because it was two of us, and him doing glamour. I don't think it was gonna work well with weddings and everything. Even though on my website I do put the wedding column, and just to give a small insight, but I guess it just makes your branding a bit stronger when you have your own wedding thing. I might be wrong, but it just gives a different impression. You're not trying to squeeze everything in one website and just show just a little bit of that and a bit of that. So I guess it just helps more on the branding side, where then of course if they come through your portrait, and they say, hey, will this guy do weddings? Oh, let me have a look. Or the other way around, so they can check, like, oh, I want to see if both guys, because we do weddings all the time together. There's no, we don't separate and do such kind of things. So I guess it just helps more your branding.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that. I don't know which way is better either. It's having a site that's devoted mainly to just weddings and engagements. If you're looking for a wedding photographer, that's probably pretty good, because you're going to go there and see, hey, look at all. I'm just looking at this. I'm not having to weed through infant photos and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you also, like you said, you do have on your site a link to that, so people can still get there when they find you. They can still get to that.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
seems
yeah,
like a good way of doing it. So what do you have any things that you've done in a wedding where you say, wow, that was a real learning experience. I did that wrong. I wish, or
yeah.
something where you've done wrong, or maybe a wedding where you say, this is my absolute favorite so far.
Yeah, well, because I think I've done quite a few weddings in Poland, and one of the first ones was the hardest one, because I didn't know the language. I mean, still now I don't speak Polish, but I kind of learned it. But the hardest part was the ceremony. So sometimes you were just trying to guess if that was gonna happen, and you were like, okay, maybe now he's talking about this, or maybe now he's saying this, and that was the part where I was like, I said, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen here, and I kept looking at the people, and to see if they were gonna stand up, or try to have the whole picture in my head. And that was the hardest part, and mostly was because, as well, it was winter time, so I knew that the best shots had to be done the indoors ones, so I couldn't rely on location or anything like that. So I really had to focus, and I was really, really kind of scared in the first few weddings. And one of my favorite ones, I guess, well, in London is so nice because there's so many very different kind of weddings. So you get from the Muslim wedding, from the Indian wedding, to the normal classic wedding. So there are a few really nice weddings we really enjoy doing.
Okay. So any things that you look forward to doing in the future? You expand the wedding business or get into different areas of photography?
Well, yeah, that's very tricky. Well, now I'm more into like videos right now. Like, I'm trying to experiment with videos and everything, but it's if I have to take it the same way as photography, I guess videos is a way much more expensive kind of thing. It takes you so much more time. Where, like, example, some shots, like wedding shots, you can just edit them, with one style and try to, you build your own action and you run through them. But videos, you have to edit. There's no way, you can come out with a video without editing it. So I think that really takes you a lot of time. But it's something I'm really trying to work on videos, small videos, and not for work kind of stuff, but mostly like for kind of put it into a hobby kind of thing. But it's I don't know. It seems just every time there's a bigger problem, then what photography mainly you can do it by yourself. Where in videos you need somebody that knows very well how to do the audio, another guy who knows very well, I don't know, like actors sometimes. So it's something like that that's kind of tricky.
Yeah. So we're watching one of the videos, the Blake Michael behind the scenes, and the video editing and quality here is really good. Who's doing these?
So the video editing, I was the one doing it, and I don't know if you know this guy, because he's quite popular in the US. He's doing this show, Dog with a Blog for Disney or something like that. Yeah, he's one of those actors, and yeah, we was a guy who's doing video regularly now, and he's a French guy, and we worked on this together, and that was one of the first steps I really went into video, the video editing, the color correction, and the building the video, and it was kind of that's where I really find it so much fun, because with the video you have sound, you have movement, so it's kind of more builds up more something, a more longer story and interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, no, this and you're not listening to the audio right now. I have this in the show notes, but I listened to the audio earlier. It's very entertaining to watch him and watch this video. And I was just thinking, your behind the scenes videos are really good quality, more than I would expect from the average behind the scenes video.
And these are all done with just a regular DSLR?
Yeah. And mostly using all my lenses as well.
That's pretty cool.
Because the guy, I think he used a Nikon as well. So yeah, and I guess behind the scenes is a big part where you try to kind of just not only show sometimes like how awesome is it to be a photographer, but just show how much work has to go behind it. And like sometimes it's just when you look at the picture you say, well, that's one person thing, but then there's so many other people behind it and trying to make it happen, and these people that work with you, and then you're really grateful for them, because they the way everybody has to work, and most of the times, like some behind the scenes, like the last one, it was the same guy. He done the one with the girl with the dress and was all slow motion thing. Most of the times we just stop doing the shooting and he takes 5 minutes shooting only the video, and then we keep going to the next shoot, and then he does. So I give him like this 10 minutes time each time we're doing something, so he could do it with no pressure, and not trying to just take stealing scenes away. So he comes up with ideas and say, okay, let's do it like this.
Okay. And before we end up in here, because we're getting close to the hour, I'm looking on your site. You came across this thing called, let me pull it up here. So we're on your site, jamesconnolly.com, and you have a link, and this is where I got a lot of the photos from, is this view bug. Have you heard of that before, Tim?
No, I had not.
I had not either. Can you tell us a little bit about ViewBug? I like the way they display some of the images here. What is ViewBug?
Yeah, ViewBug is I think it came out before 500 pixel. It was I think was one of the biggest sort of social for photography. That's the first ones I came across immediately, and I just keep posting pictures there, and it's actually a very nice platform. And I think this year I became curator or something like that, like part of something there. But yeah, you can go to so many competitions, some of them, well, you do a subscription, I think was around $30, I think, per year, and then you can just, you know, change your account. It's like 500 pixel.
Okay.
And there are so many competitions where you can just, you know, go in and try, and most of the prizes are very good. Like, I think F-Stopper works, like, do something with them. Creative Live does something with them. So they have this main kind of sponsors where you can win competitions. And, you know, if you have I think you can have the middle account, and that would be good enough to do all the competitions you can. And then I think you have these voting systems, you have, you know, the small kind of awards they give you, and yeah, all this kind of stuff. It's a very nice website.
It is, yeah, and of course I love your cover photos. I mean, this one we played in the slideshow, but you know, this is one of the things I did back when the kids were smaller. I made photos of them, you know, handing themselves stuff. They're wearing different clothes, and the composites that you do like this. But I love this one, how you have the Facebook page pulled up, and then you're playing a console game or something over there. So I got to ask, what game were you playing?
Yeah, well, I'm really into racing stuff. So not only in games, I really follow like Formula One and stuff like this. And I think I think it was just off. I was just pretending to play, but I think it was like Forza or some racing game anyway, with a steering wheel.
Yes. I enjoy playing Forza on my son's Xbox, so I know how you feel.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, just a little side story. So we had bought a steering wheel back a few years back when the kids were younger. And I coming home from work one day, so excited to go play the game, you know, with the steering wheel, because I've only had it a few days. And I go up there and I go to notice it's unplugged, and the dang game kids unplugged it, and I go to plug it in. And that's when I realized that not only is it unplugged, but they had taken scissors and chopped the cord in half.
Why? So you wouldn't get to use it?
No, I don't know why. They just did it because they're kids.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there was I had to play that night with a regular controller, and I was like, oh, this is just junk.
It's very difficult with the controller.
Yeah, so they got in trouble, but still
I guess so.
I did not get to play the way I wanted to. All right, well, James, where can people find out more about you?
Well, obviously on my website and my Facebook, trying to keep it active as much as I can, even though I know it's kind of it's getting harder now with Facebook, especially fan pages and things like this.
Yeah, and I went to your fan page. You do post out there on a regular basis, so that's a good place for people to go and see your work.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have all those links in the show notes for everybody, so you know if you don't remember them. His website's pretty easy to remember, jamesconnolly.com.
Oliver Connolly.
Oliver Connolly. Ooh, I messed that up.
Yeah. Don't write James Connolly on Google. You know, Irish guy will come out.
Yep, there is. Yeah, I did do that myself. James Oliver Connolly, and I'll have that in the show notes correctly.
They are correct in there.
So people can go and get the right guy. James, and we really appreciate you coming out tonight, because it's, what is it there, 1:30 in the morning?
No, it's 2:30 now.
2:30. Oh boy. Yeah. All right, I'll get things moving here.
It's fine.
Because we appreciate you coming out this late and spending some time with us. And if anybody out there, pleasure. Oh, thank you. Anybody who had to leave early because it's 2:30 where you are, or if you didn't get the show, we'll have it out in a few days. I'm about to travel, so it'll probably be this weekend before it's out. And we'll have it, in all of our normal places, which if you have not, the best way to get it is subscribe. Because then you'll get it as soon as it comes out on audio, which is Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Podomatic. Tons of places. And if you're an audio...
Everywhere.
Yeah, if you're an audio subscriber, you really have missed a lot of great photos from James. Go out to his site and look there. Come out to the show notes and you'll see the links. So you get to see some of the photos we were looking at tonight. If you're a video subscriber, we're on iTunes, YouTube, and TiVo. So you can get it from one of those places. You can also come and join us in the Facebook group, which is jpeg2RAW.com/Facebook. And we are, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're wrapping up today, March 31st, the March Photo Challenge, which is eyes, For April, though, we're going to have an open contest. All it has to be is taken in April, but it could be any topic you want, even automotive, like Alex, who's going to go out there and join us. Any topic you want, as long as it's taken in April 2015, come out there and join us. And then Tim, we still have this, and I know how we're going to give it away.
Oh, you got an idea?
I got an idea. I know how we're going to give it away. It's going to be super simple. All you have to do is sign up for our newsletter. Great news about the newsletter. We don't have one yet.
I was going to say, I didn't know we had one.
So you won't get spammed. All you got to do is sign up for it. And I'll be posting the actual rules and all that kind of stuff soon. And if you can't read what I'm doing it because I'm doing it too fast, this is the 12-month prepaid subscription to the Adobe Photoshop plan, which is Photoshop and Lightroom. And so you'll sign up for the newsletter. At some date in the future, we'll actually have a newsletter, and then you'll get them once a month or so. You won't get spam with it, and until we have one, you won't get anything. So how hard can that be?
Sounds simple to me.
How do you use water? The way this is possible, is by using our Amazon link, which is jpeg2RAW.com/Amazon. Anytime you go to buy anything, shoes, cameras, anything like that, we get a small credit, and it helps us buy things like that. We give 100% of it back to the viewers and listeners through whatever we earn from that. And great news, Tim, in the forums, I have at least 2 people who are chatting with me and posting out there now. Dennis Moon, who's still out there in chat, I believe.
He's out in chat right now.
And I'm not sure if he's left or if his name. Yeah, he's still out there. Gary. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Gary is out there.
Deal, I guess.
And both of them are both of them are posting jpeg2RAW.com/forums. Great looking forums. They're beauuful. Not as beautiful as James' photos.
I think I've been there before. I might have been there.
You're a registered member. Yes, you are.
Yes.
Look, come out there. It's one of those chicken and egg things. We got to get people posting for people to come and post.
First.
Also forgot to mention Topaz Labs, which if you look below the live page, now we just have 2 ads, Topaz and Amazon. We get a small credit from Topaz Labs too. So if you want to use any of their products with Lightroom or Photoshop, jpeg2RAW.com/Topaz Labs. And that's it for this week. Next, what do we have next week?
Was it stock photography, I think?
Yes, we're going to cover stock photography. That's not the photography of, stocks from Wall Street. like some people may think it is. Nobody who listens to this show, but like my kids or somebody. That is selling stock photos on iStock and Shutterstock and some of those other places like that. Rob's going to come out. Rob Sylvan, let's say his name right.
Yeah, yes, you did.
Rob Sylvan's going to come out and talk to us about that. This is something I know a little bit about because I years ago put 18 photos of mine out there on iStock, and they're still sitting out there earning me money. Still making money.
You think you'd actually put some more out there since then?
Yeah, I think the qualifications have gone up. I may not qualify anymore. Anyway, until next week, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.